your European vintage champion, Franco Chicchini. Franco, how are you, man?
I'm really good. I was excited to participate in the tournament weekend in Italy, and it's a dream to win one. I already lost a final in the tournament weekend vintage, so it was
Oh,
kind of a
man.
mission for me.
Yeah. Once you get the second place, the itch is there, right?
Yeah, it was the online tournament weekend, so it was not the same thing. Actually, this event was like really, really, really the best I have ever been. And obviously, I do a lot of four season and boost tournament, but this one set really a new standard for every other tournament to be.
Yeah, I really hope that they that somehow that vibe comes over to the States, because this was easily one of the best run and best managed tournaments I've ever been to.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't went to any tournament in the United States, but yeah, hopefully I will come in the future. Yeah, you should try. You should try. I mean, the food is was a lot of the success, obviously, because the stands were really awesome. There was no stands that were empty or full, but you will get whatever you want in a couple of minutes. Was really they did like an incredible job to have us an incredible event also.
Yeah, yeah. So you went with Esper Lurrus, but before we get into the deck, give me a little background on your experience with the format. How long have you been playing Vintage for?
So I started playing vintage before the COVID, so it was like 2019. And actually, my first vintage match was like really awesome because I was playing Bazaar, and my opponent did like win follow turn one, and I discarded my hands and dredged my whole deck. It was like the first game. The first game was like, okay, I love
Yeah,
this
of
format,
course.
perfect.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, it's amazing.
And then I started playing online, and actually online is really accessible, and you see a lot of the players that do well also in paper tournaments are Magic Online player, grinder. And I had a lot of success during the Lurus Breach era. It was like the best powerful deck of all time for me. And yeah, I really enjoy the format because you can do so much powerful stuff, but it seems like balance to me because I can do powerful stuff, you can do powerful stuff. It's a matter of also the little choice that you have to do during the game that have you let an advantage or a disadvantage.
Finding the right high-end cards for legacy, vintage, pre-modern, or old school Magic can be challenging. That's where friends 3-for-1 trading come in.
3-for-1 Trading is one of Europe's top Magic the Gathering retailers with an incredible selection of premium singles, sealed product, and even full sets, all available with free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping.
They add fresh inventory every Wednesday with weekly deals and discounts. So whether you're hunting for that elusive piece of power, a legacy staple, or something spicy for your collection, they've got you covered.
First high-end orders over $500 or €500, use the code EDFREE to get free worldwide shipping.
Check them out now at the number 3, the number 4, the number 1.gg/ED. That link takes you right to the shop and helps support the channel.
Huge thanks to 3-for-1 Trading for supporting the legacy community. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot you can do in this format, and everyone's kind of on the same playing field. Something, to the layman that's not really paying a lot of attention to the format is you'll see a lot of decks that are Loris based decks, basically like, 2-drop central for these decks. How do you feel about Loris as a card that kind of defines the format? Sort of like how Delver for a while defined Legacy.
I mean, I really love Lurus because, okay, you have some rules to build your deck, and yeah, you can argue that they look kind of the same, but now that we have also the combo variants, like 1 year before, you reveal Lurus, you're a fair deck, okay, I can set up against you. Now I reveal Lurus, what kind of Lurus are you? You are Lurus Doomsday, you are Lurus Jeskai, PO, you are an Esper Blue Black, so we have a little variance in the format. Also, in my tournament, I faced only 3 Lurus decks. I played against not Lurus deck all day, like Initiative, Bazaar, powerless Eldrazi that was like really hard to beat. So Doomsday in the winner in. So You have a lot of things in the format. For me, Lurrus is not a problem now with the restricted things, because 90% of the time it's a -1 card in your sideboard. Obviously, there are a lot of games that actually helps, and Mirror of Lurrus Fair, they are not so easy and they tend to slow us the tournament, but I don't see a reason to ban it. For me, like, the only card that you can touch now are Stock Up and Clarion Conqueror if you want to shake up some things, but now seems really balanced, so I don't think there is a need for any bannings right now.
Yeah, that was my impression of the format as well. It seemed like overall the format was relatively balanced. There are a lot of different Lurrus decks you can play, so it doesn't feel like you're playing against the exact same thing constantly. Honestly, this is one of the healthiest formats I think Wizards has right now, which is saying something.
Yeah, I think that it's also slower than things like Pioneer, where on turn 3 you are already dead. Because I play all the formats, and I noticed in this month that I was testing that I feel better in Vintage because it was slower than the other formats. The other formats are, for me, are much faster. Obviously, you can do Mox things, Black Lotus things, but yeah, seems like slower because I play also a deck that can slow the game easily.
So you picked Esper Lurrus. Why Esper Lurrus over Jeskai or Dimir?
So I was playing blue-black in the last 2 years. I switched to Esper like this year because I thought that Lavinia and Containment Priest and Sword to Plowshares were much better answers to the field. And then I had some doubts coming in the tournament. I had like, cut one Pierce, add one Flash Storm, cut one Lavinia, add one more land. And then before the tournament, I decided I'm playing this deck from like forever, and I cut all the changes. I only left the Stony Silence because I want to have a little bit more of edge against Flame of Honor. But the deck, in Vintage, you have to also, you can do whatever you want with your list. You can do minimal adjustment, but it's kind of what day it is. It was a good day for me because I was also drawing good. So when the deck helps you, it's kind of difficult to have, okay, if I had this, I could have done better. It's more of, I drew Ancestral, I do some things. The tools that I choose were useful for the things, but all that matters in most of games is also if you draw power or not. And this is where my day went, was absolutely crazy stuff all day. And I think I played really good, at least not in the final, but yeah, I could have played better the final for sure.
Hey, at the end of the day, I know this is results-driven commentary, but you won. So you obviously played pretty damn well. You beat what? There were over like 500, 400 people? How many were there in the Vintage event?
36 people. 200. I think it's the biggest we had in Europe.
In Europe,
I think it was also bigger than the North American one. So the biggest of the
Sweet. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's an achievement all by itself. Winning the biggest European Vintage event ever, all by itself is pretty great. So let's talk a little bit about some of the cards that make the deck run. You were talking about Lavinia and Swords to Plowshares. Why do you think Swords to Plowshares is so important enough to splash a third color?
So the restriction of Fatal Push, which is the mainly removal spell of blue-black, is sometimes can slow you down. Like against all one, it's really bad. Against Initiative, you need always a fetch, and it's not easy against Arcanum area. So Plow resolve everything. You don't have to think about anything, and it's kind of good also in the Mirror of Lurrus, where if you push, you also have to spellbomb your opponent. With Sword to Plowshares, it's easier.
To be forthwith with the particular word you used, restriction. You mean the limitation of Fatal Push, not the fact that you can only play one.
Yeah, the limitation.
It's very important in the Vintage format.
I also play 2 Fatal Push in the sideboard because I want to have more removal spell in the mirror. I consider it Momentum Breaker, but I don't feel the field is low enough for Momentum Breaker. And so this is what my choice are for the removal spell. For Lavinia, it's kind of difficult to do on turn 1 because you also have to have the right Moxen, but it's a fine play also turn 2, and sometimes the opponent deck crashes under Lavinia and Wasteland. Most of the time is a pitch for Force Wheel. I'm not gonna lie to you, and most of the times it's a sideboard outlet, because in the mirror is pretty useless, and when you are on the draw you kind of want to not play Lavinia sometimes, but it was really powerful enough for all day when it mattered. It was a good choice for me. I also expected a lot of OAT, so the Containment Priest and Lavinia are pretty busted. You can win sometimes also with Lavinia against Atraxa in game 1. It happened. These were my choices for the white splash, mainly. Containment Priest is also a huge part of this, because if you are blue black and you are against OAT, you have like to sideboard Graph Digger Cage, which are a Nombo with Lurrus, and I don't really like to have Nombo in my deck. So Priest is really powerful.
In times of financial uncertainty, how can you stay on track? Call someone who's invested in your success. Nick Ropp, your Edward Jones financial advisor and certified financial planner, is here to help you. He will work to build a complete picture of your financial life, including your unique goals and passions, so he can help you achieve what's most important to you. Call Nick Ropp at 314-377-9524 or email nicholas.ropp@edwardjones.com to schedule an appointment today. That's 314-377-9524 or email nicholas.roupp@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones member, SIPC.
I'll make sure that I share this list with everybody here so that they can see what we're looking at here. So yeah, it looks like your main threats are Orcish Bowmasters and Psychic Frog in the deck, and these have sort of become the standard threats of this deck. Obviously, because they're 2 mana, and then they're particularly potent in this format. You know, obviously, people do love to draw cards in Vintage, so Orcish Bowmasters is great, and Psychic Frog just outclasses everything else at 2 mana.
Yeah, especially if a lot of decks, if you do Psychic Frog on turn 1, you are like so far ahead, and it's the best way to have a threat to an opponent that really pushes. Okay, you have to deal with it. So we saw a lot of this in Legacy, obviously, but on turn 1 it's a little bit better than on turn 2.
Yeah. And you're playing, obviously, Mental Misstep is great here to protect your frog from either Swords to Plowshares or Fatal Push. You know, you're obviously you're playing, you know, again, this is sort of for the layman here. Obviously, you're playing a lot of 0 mana cost spells and Force of Will, but the Vexing Bauble is there just as one of those things that like deals with the unfair decks. And when you want to do your 0 mana spells, you just sacrifice and draw a card.
Yeah, mostly the Vexing Bubble is there because you can sacrifice and draw with Lurrus, so you have something to recurse.
Also great, yeah.
It's not that great when you're on the draw, obviously. It's a one-off, so if you open it with it and you are on the play, you can win some games because it's powerful enough. But obviously, in a deck that also play Lavinia, you can play Vexing Bubble, then play Lavinia, and then sacrifice the bubble to have the Lavinia that it's asymmetrical, so you can do something about it.
Yeah. And I like Nile Spellbomb here as a one of too, because, you know, like you were just saying, with Lurrus, you can just continue to recur that. And if you're playing in the mirror, like, goodbye, you don't get any of your Lurrus cards anymore.
It's good also against Bazaar, obviously. And I kinda have a thought in mind that against Bazaar I want at least 8 card, but I only have 7 slot. So the Spellbomb was main decked really, really easily. And it's never dead. It's useful against everybody because a lot of people are playing Trees of Cruise, Detour Time, Underworld Breach, so every matchup has a use for Neon Spellbomb, which is great for me.
The question I have, because I'm not as versed in the format as I used to be. I stopped playing seriously a Vintage in about 2019, and I pop into the format occasionally. But normally, you don't tend to see Time Twister as a card that most fair decks play, or at least that was the case, 6 years ago. But here we are seeing it in one of the most fair decks as just a way to recoup expenses, or what are we doing with this here?
I'm of the idea that if you play vintage, you don't have a combo in your deck, you're doing something bad. So the Time Twister is there because there is a combo with Orcish Bowmaster and Psychic Frog when you can push out lethal in situations that are like really loose. It's obviously a jolly that you have that, okay, the situation is compromised, I can resolve anything else. I wish I have to draw the Time Twister. So it's an out to the situation that are really bad. Obviously, sometimes I push myself to have a finish with Time Twister that, as happened in the top 8 match against Bazaar, was like really bad because I could have won much faster without pitching the Time Twister for Force of Will, but yeah, you have to have some heart to pitch a Time Twister or a Power 9 in general to Force of Will. And so this has been not powerful in the tournament, but actually in a lot of tournaments helped me out a lot. So I don't think I could play this deck without Time Twister.
Yeah. And then the one of Dress Down, obviously also there because it's great with Lurrus. But what are you specifically worried about with Dress Down? I'm assuming Atraxa is on the top of that list, but what else?
Yeah, there's Atraxa, actually the protection from white and black creature that I don't remember the name every time is actually an issue. A Construct from Urza Saga, which is limited. Okay, you have 5 Wasteland effect, but sometimes happen. And then we have Against Initiative, it's really powerful. And in the Mirror of Lurrus, if you dress down in your end step from the graveyard from your Lurrus, you negate the Lurrus of your opponent, which is really, really great.
Oh, yeah.
And then against shops, there is some with Fleshbreaker, you can negate also the spawn to make mana, so it helps a lot in a lot of games. It's bad only against Bazaar or Baghdad, obviously, because it shuts down your priest, your Lavinia. But yeah, it's really, really powerful.
So let's talk about the sideboard a little bit and the decks that you played, or at least that you would bring these cards in for. Is there anything here specifically that's kind of just a hedge for one particular kind of deck?
And I think the only card that I sideboard in only one matchup is the one Tabernacle of at Pendrell Vale, because it's not the great actually, because it's good only in some situation. This is why I played only one. I played only one because it's an out to some situation of double hollow one on turn 1, and you can actually deal with 2 hollow one. So it's a good thing to have one if you have a demonic tutor in your deck. So it's an out. And then the other cards are really versatile. So I tend to sideboard, obviously, Stony Silence and No Road against PO decks and against shops. I mean, the Raker shop version, because against the Sphere shop are really bad because they no road you. So it's not that powerful. The Silo Cleansing is actually a card that you can main deck if you want. But I don't think there is. When Urza Saga was unrestricted, yeah, Silo Cleansing was great main deck, but now it's more like a specific tool against OAT and Breach, mostly. Then you have the Pin and Needle, which are great against Workshop deck and Bazaar deck. Then the Spellbomb, obviously, against Bazaar and Lurrus. The Push in the Mirror and against Initiative. The Priest are, I think, the most versatile because they can against Initiative as a 2/2 flash creature that negate the last dungeon. It's really great. And against OAT and against Bazaar. And then the Consume to Memory are mostly against the Shops deck, but there is an argument to sideboard in against just KPO because you can negate a Flusterstorm, you can negate a Portable Hole, which is a thing, or you can, obviously, if I start and my opponent goes Mana Crypt, I will always consign to Memory. And they are actually the best card against Doomsday, so it's useful.
So during the day, obviously you played a few different archetypes. Is there any particular archetype that you think is the worst matchup for this deck?
I feel that the new PO variants with Lurrus, mostly the just Sky because it's the most played, but actually the worst matchup is like the Lurrus Breach version, which is like a control builded to beat the other blue decks. So Mana Drain, Flash Storm. So if you don't have a proactive plan, but you stay there and watch, you always lose because they eventually gift and given you and then combo out. So I think that is the hardest to beat. But I don't think if you play this deck, you have negative matchups and bad and good matchups. You always are on the edge. A lot of things like the die roll and some of these things will change your percentage, but I think you are 50-50 against everyone, and what it counts is how you interpreted the game. Do not flash the Bowmaster always in the end step, you keep it in your hand and try to trick your opponent into doing your jobs. Also because Spell Pierce normally can be a card that is dead on turn 1 sometimes, but sometimes it's good at turn 10 with your opponent with like 20 mana and still good.
Yeah, it's awesome that there's still formats that reward like solid play, player knowledge of the format, and just knowing what your matchups are and what becomes important in the format. I do remember watching Phil had a feature match in round 2, and his opponent did get to cast Gifts Given against him, and when he did, that they play like Brain Freeze, which wasn't great for him. He didn't have much left in his deck, and they were able. His whole plan was, I'm just going to sit on a top and float a 2 because the Lurrus deck's only win conditions are really 2 drops. So when his opponent was just like, "Oh, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff, Brain Freeze you," and he just kind of sat there and was like, "Well, I can't counter that." But a consigned memory would have been great in that scenario.
Yeah, I think also that in Magic, a lot of games are decided when one player has a plan and the other player has not. So I like to play in a way that revolves around my plan. Obviously, switching sometimes because all the differentials are different. But if you have a plan, if you play this kind of decks, you will be always rewarded in the long run. Obviously, if you play in only one tournament, it could be bad or it could be good. But in the long run, you are rewarded to play good and play following your plan.
Awesome. Were there any plays during the day that you can remember off the top of your head that were just amazing? Did you have any of these moments that were just like, you were like, "Oh, I'm feeling lucky now, and I feel like it's on my side. I think I'm probably going to take this."
There are 2 actually. One is a misplay by my part because it was round 1 and in game 2 I was like winning, but I drew a Black Lotus and I was like so excited to. It was the first Black Lotus that I drew for the day, and it was like a crack Black Lotus, Demonic Tutor for Ancestral, and my opponent was like, if you do Demonic Tutor for Strip Mine, you would have won this turn. But with your Ancestral, you lose because I drew nothing. So that was a thing that was to remember for the rest of the tournament. Don't get too excited to draw powerful cards.
Yeah.
Then I think the Spell Pierce on the paradoxical outcome on the finals, it was when I understood that I could have won that final, because I have an experience to lose the finals, and that moment was a deal breaker. Okay, if you play this way, I can win this game for sure, because it was setting up a trap with Bowmaster, because I had only a Spell Pierce and was not good. And if he played Bowmaster, I will catch him with the Spell Pierce, and he did. If he continue play like this, I could always win this game. So I like to when I set my traps and they go for it. It's perfect for me, and this was the best moment for me. like it was midnight and was like Dispel Pierce with my opponent with 7 mana is not good, and it was good. So that was the moment, the Spell Pierce of the day.
Yeah, awesome. I always have to ask in these tournaments, and this is not a reflection on the player, but a lot of folks borrow power for these events. Did you borrow any of your power? And if so, it's time to shout out the people you borrowed power from.
Yeah, I have to shout out to Gary Campbell, which is the godfather of Eternal Weekend in Europe, and which lent me the power and the duel, actually, because I didn't have all the duels. And it's really the best person, and I cannot thank him enough. And he also, 2 years ago in Prague, he also lent me the power. So if it wasn't for him, I could have not played this event. So thank you very much, Gary. We love you. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
All Europe loves Gary.
That's amazing. Yeah, anybody out there lending power, just doing the Lord's work for this format, because I think it's this. There are plenty of events that offer proxies, and you can play proxies in Vintage, but there's just 3 events a year where like you got to have the cards, and the people who are out there lending out power are the people who greasing the wheels, keeping this format together for sure.
Yeah. Also, I think one of the thing why this Eternal Weekend Vintage was like the biggest one, I think, is from the top 8 of North America, the Scam deck that went in top 8. I think he did a lot to have like 50, 60 more players. So shout out also to the people that
I thought about it. Yeah.
Shout out also to the people that decides to play a vintage tournament without the power, but just to feel the vibes, the atmosphere, and because these decks are actually good. So I played against 3 powerless decks and I won only because I won the die roll. Because if they start, I mean, they have soaring. They all have soaring. So yeah, it was like crazy. But yeah, I would have not played without the power because I'm not comfortable to play without power. Yeah, shout out to them.
That is exactly how I feel about Brainstorm and Legacy. I'm not doing that. People are always like, "Yeah, you should try like a Green Sun Zenith deck." I'm like, "No way, absolutely not. That's crazy." But yeah, Franco, again, congratulations, man. It was a pleasure to have you on, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about the deck and sharing your experience with us about Vintage.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and if I can, I want to say hello to all my friends that supported me during the Eternal Weekend, and for believing in me while there was some turns where I was like, I'm not gonna do it today, I'm too crushed.
Yeah, I saw you had some folks hanging out for you for the entire tournament, waiting late for you and stuff. That was amazing.
Yeah. Especially Pepe and Raffaele Ramagli. I have to thank them for sure.
Those are the true heroes of the any large event, is the friends who will hang out with you when you've top 8'd.
Yeah. It's difficult to be on that side also, because maybe you are like, I want to enjoy dinner, and I was like, yeah, Franco, please, come on, go for it.
Yeah. I was like, Eric, my buddy Eric top 8'd, and I was like, come on, man, come on.
I mean, for me, I was like, when I top 8'd, I was like, okay, job is done, because I don't really care normally for the glory. But when they say, oh, there is a painting there, and it was like, I need that.
Yeah, you need that painting.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to arrive, to hang before in that wall for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah, and when I saw
I've got my Pac-Man suit up in the background. That's as close as I get to a painting today.
It was really good, really good. You are recognizable everywhere for
That's the plan. Is I just want people to be able to be like, there he is. We even put it on the new shirt.
Nice.
These shirts came in right at I ordered these before North American Eternal Weekend, and they finally came in, but they arrived when I got home from Europe. So I'm really bummed that I didn't get to show these off. But they're available. People can buy those in the doobly doo there.
You know the links, so just buy it.
All right, man. Well, again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. And one final note, you were telling me you actually watch a show, which is amazing. So that's
Yeah,
also
I
another
watch
giant
the
boon.
show, and I'm a huge fan of Phil because I saw all his tournament on Twitch.
Yeah, over on 90s MTG, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, and I was like, yeah, go for it, thwart it. I love the thwarts. I'm a thwart gamer.
This guy. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next one later on.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. And if you have a moment, please subscribe to the show and like the video. That goes a long way to helping support the pre-modern and legacy content ecosystem that we've created here.
Also, do us a favor and join us at patreon.com/eternaldurdles. We've separated the tiers, so if you join the Durdle Maniacs tier, you'll get only Magic content, the same great content that you've always enjoyed.
And if you'd like both our Magic content and our Sorcery content, you can join us at the Magicians tier and get both. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.